before the Nazi Wehrmacht was blitzkrieging across Europe, there was another war that made us Afro-Americans rather sensitive. And this was when Benito Mussolini, with his modern war machine, ran through Ethiopia against who? Some blacks with spears and clubs. But there was one, it wasn't too bright a thing, but it was the only thing that you could say that was positive. There was a gentleman from somewhere in New York, Harlem, called the Black Eagle. Colonel Julian, self-appointed Colonel Julian. I don't know what he did, but this was something that you could relate to, something that you could identify with. So early, I had this idea that, well, if I had a chance to do something to help the Ethiopians, that I would want to be another or join Colonel Julian. And when the opportunity came, my high school class was the last class to graduate in peace. We graduated in June, and on December the 7th, following that, it was a completely different thing. The world had changed completely. From there, I went to junior college. When I couldn't get into the Navy V-12 program because I had the wrong color, I joined the Enlisted Reserve Corps because they said, complete your 2 years here at junior college and then go in. You can be of greater use to us if you have more education. Well, unfortunately, 3 months after we signed up, in one of his fireside chats, President Roosevelt said, I'm calling in the reserve. Well, we knew then that things were getting kind of serious. So on the 1st of April, I reported to Fort Dix, New Jersey. But I had managed to complete all of my requirements, and I got my certificate for junior college. And that was a big thing that helped me later to be able to enter the Air Force well qualified in that top 5% of their officer corps.
Ivan, can I add to that? Because one of the reasons I wanted to fly was Julian. I read his book, Black Eagle, as a young man, and the other reason was the same thing that Jim talked about. I watched them build National Airport, but the old airport was where the Pentagon is now. And I used to go there and watch the Stinson Reliance take off and take people around. And I didn't get in an airplane until I got to Tuskegee back in 1944, late 1944. J.O. Clinton took me up on a Sunday afternoon when the ceiling was 500 feet and they couldn't do anything but just fly around and have fun. And I took a ride. It was my first time. But Julian, the Black Eagle, was the one who influenced me to say that I want to fly. Thank you.
My view of the war is different than most people's. My World War II experiences were peaceful for the most part, but I spent my time at the National Security Agency during the Cold War, and a couple of my assignments during that time allowed me to find out what was really going to happen if there was a third World War, or if we and the Russians ever had to go at it, and a lot of people were going to die. So I am one of the people who I believe understands what war means, and I don't like it, and I hope we never have to do it again. Thank you.
I would say another question I think holds a lot of importance. Has there been enough progress in the military as far as integration and continuing to understand what history was all about? And have we done enough to make sure that some of the things that occurred don't happen again?
I'm going to start that one off. I believe the military has made greater strides in racial activities than the civilian side has thus far. Nobody can ever say that things are perfect. And I'm one of the people who don't believe that there's ever going to be a perfect world. The military has done lots of things to influence what happens in the civilian world. And I hope they will continue to do so. Anybody who reads the newspapers will see that racial problems in the U.S. still exist and sometimes get worse as they go along.
Well, there's always going to be differences of opinion, so there'll always be strife. Hopefully, as people become better educated, we can avoid the fatalities of war and be able to settle disputes short of war. It may be possible, but I remember when I was going to high school, the theory out at that time was of Malthus, the guy who said that our population explosion was going to be the cause of the end of humanity as we know it. And I often think of all of these millions of people who were killed during the process of World War II, millions of Russians, millions of people in Europe, millions of people in Japan, and through the islands of the South Pacific. If all of those people had not been killed in the war and had survived and had just multiplied normally, would there be some real serious problems in the world today? Can't help but wonder about that. The Chinese came up with a policy that a family could only have one male child. If they ended up with the girl, maybe they could get a second chance. Will other nations have to emulate that? I don't know. But I know that people have differences, and if it's not going to be based on race, it can be based on wealth, it can be based on something else. But until we can make progress so that we can have some means of reducing the potential strifes that will arise with people, the future is not necessarily what we would want it to be.
I think the military, as Ivan and Jim have said, have done a wonderful job of integrating the services. However, as Ivan has said, as long as we have people with opinions, we're going to have problems. And we just have to learn to solve them with love instead of war.
Okay. With those remarks, we'll open the floor for some questions. The gentleman here in the front row.
I can speak without the mic. I'll speak loud.
Oh, all right.
Question that I had, when Jerry started talking, he said men of color were not used to getting on the radio and saying, this is what you should do. And as General Davis got the treatment at West Point. The other side, the whites, were not used to having a black man say what to do. And then General Davis was in a position to tell them what to do. What did you find was the reaction of the white people who are now being told what to do? How long did it take to really get that respect that was due? And how was that transition?
We're working on it.